Most people believe they're merely observing reality, watching it unfold, responding to what's happening. But what if the act of watching, the attention you give, isn't passive at all? What if the simple act of belief collapses possibility into form? And what if that belief has been quietly, deliberately shaped by something that doesn't have your best interest in mind? Welcome to Microcosmic Mirror. Today we're going to explore how the observer effect, your innate ability to shape reality, has been hijacked, not just by culture, not just by media, but by the underlying intelligence behind it all. A force the Gnostics called the Demiurge. And by the end, I want to offer a possibility that by reclaiming the power of your gaze, your focus, and your belief, you begin to withdraw your energy from the simulation and awaken as what you truly are. In quantum physics, the observer effect demonstrates how observing a particle actually determines its state. Before measurement, particles exist as waves of infinite possibilities. The moment they're observed, these possibilities collapse into a single state. Think about what that means. Reality isn't fixed until it's perceived. It's not waiting passively to be discovered. It's actively shaped moment to moment by your conscious attention. Now, extend this principle further. If observation shapes physical reality at a quantum level, what shapes the broader reality we inhabit? What determines the fundamental rules by which we live, suffer, and ultimately die? The answer might shock you, because it is we ourselves who make the rules, our assumptions, our expectations. Reality, then, isn't merely something external. It's a collective illusion, a co-created experience rooted deeply in human consciousness. What humanity collectively believes, expects, and fears becomes the foundational framework of our experience. This idea isn't new. Ancient Gnostic teachings pointed directly to this truth thousands of years before quantum mechanics gave us the scientific language. They described our reality as a flawed creation, a false world fashioned by an imperfect being they called the Demiurge. The Demiurge, in Gnostic cosmology, is not the supreme divine source. He is a lesser, incomplete creator, powerful yet deeply ignorant of his own limitations. Crucially, the Demiurge lacks the divine spark of true creativity and infinite potential. He cannot create from pure consciousness. He can only mimic, distort, and invert the creations of the true infinite source, the unknowable God whose divine spark resides within each human soul. Ironically, in his profound ignorance of his own limitations, the Demiurge casts illusions of limitation onto humanity, beings who are truly infinite by nature of their divine spark. How ironic it is that he blinds us to our own boundless potential due to his own intrinsic limitation and delusional arrogance. The Demiurge is, in many ways, the ultimate representation of the ego, a force desperately seeking validation through separateness, oblivious to the truth that in doing so, it cuts itself off from the infinite power inherent in unity, the profound realization that we are all fundamentally one. Unable to generate authentic reality, the Demiurge crafts a counterfeit version. But there's a catch. Since he can't create from pure divine consciousness, he must harness our inherent power of belief, our observer effect, to give form and solidity to his illusion of separation, limitation, and ego. And this is precisely where the Archons enter. Archons, in Gnostic thought, are the hidden enforcers of the Demiurge's false reality. They're not supernatural demons from ancient myths. Rather, they're the systems, institutions, and ideologies embedded within our world. Political structures, economic systems, religious dogmas, and especially modern media. From birth, every image you see, every narrative you're told, every value instilled in you shapes your perception of what's possible, what's normal, and what's inevitable. Your beliefs about money, success, aging, illness, and death are not entirely yours. They are handed down, carefully curated by Archonic structures to maintain your perception within narrow limits. Consider death itself. Why do we accept death as inevitable? because it has always been presented as the ultimate truth, reinforced constantly by cultural narratives, media portrayals, and collective expectation. But ask yourself, do you truly resonate with the idea of oblivion, of eternal non-existence? Or does something within you question this inevitability, sensing that consciousness itself might transcend such limits? Similarly, suffering, scarcity, aging, and loss, all the harsh facts of life, are solidified by our collective agreement. Every news report, every story, every tragedy dramatized and repeated reinforces your expectation, and thus manifests these outcomes into reality. The Demiurge and his Archons rely entirely on your participation, on your unquestioned belief. The transformative key, the awakening moment, comes when you reclaim control of your observer power. When you awaken to the divine spark within, the infinite, unknowable essence that lies beneath conditioning, you begin to dismantle the collective illusion. You recognize that reality at its deepest core is malleable, fluid, responsive to consciousness. Imagine if humanity collectively rejected the imposed limitations of the Demiurge. If instead of unconsciously manifesting scarcity, fear, and division, we intentionally projected unity, abundance, healing, and boundless creative possibility, the world would shift overnight. Yet today, we remain ensnared by the Archonic system, continually reinforced by media headlines designed to trigger fear and despair. Daily news cycles cultivate division, insecurity, and powerlessness. Popular entertainment glorifies superficiality and materialism, ensuring our attention remains trapped in lower vibrational realities. Social media algorithms selectively amplify outrage, insecurity, and confusion, deliberately keeping our observer effect locked into patterns that serve the Demiurge's vision. But what happens when you choose to withdraw belief from these carefully constructed narratives? What happens when you consciously decide the reality you wish to observe, the reality you genuinely desire? The illusion begins to shatter. The Demiurge's control weakens. You step into your true role, not merely an observer but an architect, a divine co-creator with full sovereignty over your perceptual reality. The awakening of humanity doesn't occur through revolution, violence, or external salvation. It emerges from a quiet inner realization, the moment you recognize your inherent power, the moment you consciously reclaim your observer effect. So ask yourself now, what illusions have you accepted without question? Which realities do you truly desire to experience? Because the reality you truly wish to observe is the reality you have always had the power to create. You are a quantum rebel. You were never meant to wake up, but you did. And now a doorway has opened, and the choice is yours. When you step through the portal to your new reality, which beliefs will you take with you, and which ones will you leave behind? To continue dismantling limiting belief systems and rediscovering your own godhood, subscribe to Microcosmic Mirror, follow the journey, and become part of a community committed to reclaiming our divine power. Let's dismantle illusions together, one belief at a time.